With the shift in the market, finding a great lead source that converts at a really high rate is more important than ever. Finding seller leads that are motivated and having a way to convert them that is consistent, where you can build a full system with automations along with the proper communication, is absolutely more important than ever. That's why today we wanted to bring in Josh Pono from Ponoisms that has a tremendous amount of experience in the industry, not only on the sales and scripting end, but actually building systems, building the technology that's needed to really streamline, to save you time, to save you energy and resources while getting the highest conversion rate. So we're really going to dive deep. I'm going to ask him different questions on where his business is currently focused at, how he's doing, how he's able to convert at such a high rate for not only himself, but all of the team members that are in his office with him, and how he's able to really grow and expand so quickly in this changing market. All right, let's hop right into it. Josh, it's great to have you on. We've had many different conversations, and you've told me some of the things that I've never heard anywhere else, not on YouTube, not on any team meetings, not in any training meetings, when it really comes to seller leads and what the difference is, and not only get a free lead source that comes in every day, but to harness that lead source. So, Josh, first, before we get started, tell me a little bit about you, your background, your team, your organization, and where you're at right now.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks for the compliments. I started out in this real estate industry about 14 years ago, and the first 8 years were all spent on the tech side, specifically with companies like KV Core and Conversion and Zerpal and Boomtown, company back in the day called Agent Jet. And I worked with these companies on actually building out the technology. So what tools did agents need? How were they going to implement them into their business? How to create systems that eliminated the stuff that we hate doing, like data entry or follow up with leads that have low conversion rates? How to build out programs that would get people to raise their hand when they're ready to work with them. And for 8 years, I worked with some of the biggest teams doing consulting on, from the agent that did 15 deals all the way up to the agents that were doing, running teams that did 500 deals across 2, 3, 4 different states. And, at every stage of the game, there's a different evolution and there's a different process and there's a different system that's needed. And so I spent that time gathering all that information and knowledge so that I could then put it into my business. And about 5.5, 6 years ago, I started out in real estate in San Diego, had zero sphere of influence, had no ability to influence people, did not have the persona of being this, big, successful guy. And so I had to build a business from scratch. And in my first year of real estate, I sold 33 homes. And what I used was all the information that I had gathered. And what I had learned is how many hats agents have to wear. And was recruited by a Gary Keller Top 100 to build out their systems and do their marketing. And that team was on average, when I left, doing 120 sales a year. I got recruited to work with the Altman brothers, doing marketing for them and their expansion from LA to San Diego. And currently, I run an office here locally in San Diego. I have 9 agents that are working with us and growing. And most of these agents are having phenomenal success with the systems and programs that we're running, and we're implementing them. I've got a couple part-time agents, but for the most part, my specialty and focus is how do we generate leads? How do we nurture leads? How do we build the systems around it to eliminate the unnecessary busy work and allow us to focus on spending time with our clients that lead to, growing our businesses while still having time for our families, still having times for the important things in life that don't require us to be at work all day, every day.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of things that I definitely want to dive deep onto this. For today, I really want to focus in on leads and seller leads. So there's many different opportunities out there. Of course, go on YouTube, go on any other channels, and there's different ways. What have you been able to find or pinpoint as some of the best leads right now? And I know this could change as the market is always shifting and always changing, but what's working right now? And what are you doing to build that in your business?
Yeah, so it's a good point that the market has shifted, right? Like a couple years ago, we were dealing with this massive boom from just really, really low interest rates and skyrocketing appreciation prices, and some of the things that have historically worked really well weren't working as well. And we kind of had to just hold on and take the ride and maximize it. And I sold 88 homes in 2020 and 2021. And once that all cooled, all of a sudden a lot of great sources that hadn't been fruitful previously opened up. One of those being cancel and expireds. And cancel and expireds by far is one of the, if not in my opinion, the best source of seller leads for numerous reasons. But we've gone to a heavy focus on reaching and outbound calling and prospecting for sellers, because with the market shift, we now have the opportunity to leverage our listings to get a lot more buyers. So, like in the pandemic, you'd list a property, you'd have 25 offers, and very, very, very rarely would you be able to build a database of buyers around that property because it was gone so fast. Very few sign calls, very few opportunities to do multiple open houses, etc. Where now, not only are there great opportunities for outbound sellers, but also leveraging that with systems and marketing to grow out our buyer database as well.
There's a lot to unpack with expireds, and because a lot of agents have either previous history with expireds or they have just a negative connotation when it comes the
Yeah.
house isn't good enough or the homeowner is not someone that they actually want to work with. What's your initial feedback with that type of either connotation or just previous experience? And then how have you been able to not overcome that, but actually leverage that into a positive?
Well, if I'm working one-on-one with an agent in my office and they have those connotations, the first thing I always do is I seek to understand where it's coming from. Because what I almost always find is that it's based on limited information, limited experience, and limited results. If I'm in a training where people are coming to me and saying, "Hey, look, I don't need to get a hug before we talk about how to build our business," and I can speak directly to them, I literally let them know, well, it's because you've been working them incorrectly and you're focusing on the wrong things. What most agents do with cancel and expires is they kind of tiptoe to make sure the water is warm, and they put a very, very low I want it, Veruca Salt's type of, I want the results right now. And if it takes me any longer than a couple weeks, then I'm going to cancel all my services. What most agents are missing is the bigger picture, that there is a problem in their world. And almost every single time it's the agent's fault. What I mean by that is all of the house isn't, there's something wrong with the house. Well, that should have been covered in the listing presentation. Hey, you need paint. You need to get rid of some of this big, horrible furniture with duct tape on it. You need to put it in a storage, get rid of it. Well, it's overpriced. Well, the seller had some reason why they wanted that price, and we weren't able to align it with what their goals were. So, for example, well, if I can't buy this, then I can't buy the replacement investment property I want. Awesome. Have you identified that property? Have you gotten the returns of what that property will do? Right? Because if your goal is to sell this home, cash out, and turn it into a better performing asset, even if you have to take a $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 loss, but you're saving money on taxes, you're resetting your tax equity, your tax basis line, and you're increasing your cash flow. Oftentimes, the pain is not outweighing the reward. So the agent initially, most of the time with those people, I didn't get my price. Well, where were you going to go next? Well, it was kind of up in the air. Wrong. You can never let somebody be up in the air, because otherwise they'll never make the decision if they don't have a clear picture. Think about it from us when we start a business. We want to know why we're going to go door knock 100 doors, because we want listings. And if we're like, oh, I'm going to door knock just to see what happens, we're going to quit very easily. The same thing goes with our clients. Other things where, well, I used a friend, and I'm loyal to my friend. Well, your friend sold 3 homes and they didn't get you a net seller sheet. They didn't prep the property right. Like, it almost always goes back to the agent. And I love that, because if I find out exactly where the process went wrong, and I'm the one person that is able to help them identify that they're going to continue to have bad results if they go down the same path, then I'm more than likely to win. And what I also love about them is that 100% of them are either motivated to sell or were recently motivated to sell. Okay. It's a very target rich environment. If I'm going to spend my time in my business reaching out to people, I want to know that everybody is a potential sale or is about to list their home, right? And so with all these other sources, circle prospecting, door knocking, 95% of our efforts are really just reaching out to somebody that has no intention to sell. And no matter how gifted of a salesman I am, I can't convince them that, you should probably move 2 years before your kids graduate, or you should probably retire 3 years early to move to Nevada now, right?
Mm-hmm.
With sellers that are expired, they're very, very close to that time in which they wanted to move. And it gives you much more opportunity. Plus, they're extremely cost effective and cheap. And when you work them the right way with the right processes, you have a lot of success. We're signing listings weekly right now with expired and canceled listings that are selling, and the sellers are raving about what we're doing. And really, we're just following the typical process of selling real estate and helping them eliminate the speed bumps.
So great information there, and a couple quick questions that might be able to pinpoint where. I know there's different ways to get these expired listings to be able to be able to reach out to them so you know exactly when they're coming on, when they've just expired or just canceled. What's the best resource that you found, or the best way to get those lists daily? Like you said, they can be very cost effective and even free at times. What's kind of your tip there on where to get started with expireds?
Well, it goes back to your budget, right? Because there's different ways that I can tell you right now. With one phone call, you can go get these leads delivered to your inbox every single day for free. They're readily available, and they're probably right under most people's noses. And if you've got the budget to spend a little bit of money, you can automate a lot of the heavy lifting. You can automate a lot of the data entry. And so there's a few companies out there when it comes to depending on your budget, so if you've got a little bit of money, there's companies like RedX, there's companies like Mojo, there's companies like LandVoice. If you've got a little bit more money, then there's some other companies out there that offer some better quality leads where their formula is a little bit different, the way their technology operates is a little bit better, and they integrate with more things. So anytime somebody's saying, Josh, where can I go get these leads? Which ones are the best? I start with them, because it's like, when you make a decision in your business, I don't want to make a decision that if it works, if it doesn't work in 2 months, I'm out of business or I have to give up, because it would be like trying to plant an apple tree and expecting that apple tree to grow within 2 months. And if not, I lose the lease on my land and somebody else takes it over. I expect to have results in 30 to 60 days, but that doesn't mean I'm getting paid for it. So if you have a few $100 for the next 6 months, and if it took 6 months to get 2 or 3, 4, 5 listings, but they all came in months 4, 5, and 6, well, then that's a whole different conversation around what you can invest in your business to make sure you're successful, but also operate without the pressure of failure, instant failure, to where you're not giving yourself enough, like a runway without enough room to land, so to speak.
Mhm. Absolutely. If someone's just getting started with expireds the very first time, what is your number one go-to to help them get started on either ways to reach out or ways to start the conversation with the homeowners? When you're reaching out, what is your kind of number one thing that you recommend to start getting the ball rolling?
Great question. So the first thing that and it's in every single call that we make, and it's across the board, right? People say, I hate cold calling. It's like, well, then don't cold call. What's the definition of a cold call? It's you reaching out to a stranger and being like, hey, what's up? I'm a stranger. I'd like to talk to you about something that I'd like to talk to you about.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, if you start with familiarity, if you start with a warm approach, that's completely different than everybody else, by definition, you're separating yourself from the instant they pick up the phone. And so there is a specific way that within literally 1 hour, I can teach somebody exactly how to flip the first 5 seconds of every single conversation so that they start responding in a positive manner instead of, oh, are you an agent? Oh, why are you calling? Oh, who's this? It changed to like, hey, what's going on? How are you? Why are you, oh, you're, yeah, what's going on? How can I help? Right. And so if you can just change that first impression, think about going back to every single, like, for the most part, when you meet somebody new, if you connect with them right away, it's going to carry on further into that relationship. If it's awkward and weird and uncomfortable in the beginning, it's not going to go anywhere. So what we tell the agents in our office, and it's the same exact approach I use when I was selling websites to realtors. I didn't cold call agents and be like, hey, what's up? I'm a stranger. I focused on familiarity so that when I called, I was one of their buddies, one of their pals. I wasn't like everybody else selling them websites. And that's what led to me being very successful in that game, helping agents build their business. But the same exact principle applies in all sales, whether it's expireds or internet leads or selling agents' websites or whatever it may be. If you hate cold calling, don't cold call. Make it warm calls. Turn every cold call into a warm call, and your results will be drastically different on everything you do.
What is the next step after you've made that familiarity? What do you recommend? I know it's probably different on every call, depending on, if they're ready to relist it right away, or if they need a little time, or like you said, you're finding the pain points that they had before and moving forward with that. So what is the next step of the process? So after you've kind of have that familiarity, then where do you go from there?
Great question. So once you have that familiarity, and all you have to see, most people focus on what to say. You've got to learn your script. You've got to know what to say. You've got to be on your toes. And when you do that, if you think about it for a second, right? It's all, the focus is all on you and what you're going to say and how you're going to convince them to work with you, right? And by the definition of that, it's self-centered. Okay, once you figured out exactly how our system and our approach turns every cold call into a warm call, then we focus on your ears. Okay, and I'll give you an example. I had a sales rep one time that I was, because I've trained hundreds and hundreds of sales reps, hundreds of agents. And what happens is if your ears are off, you're missing the opportunities that are literally smacking you in the forehead. And so I had this sales rep. He was in a very negative mindset. His ears were all jacked up, and he was talking about how he could change this agent's business. And what he was saying is, hey, my website converts 1% of all traffic into leads, meaning I got to send 100 people to my website to get one lead. The website at the time that we were selling was converting at 10. So you could send the same 100 visitors to our website and get 10 times the lead. That's astronomical in somebody's business. And he explains it to him. And the agent goes, oh my gosh, you're telling me 10% lead capture? Mind was blown, sale was done. But because where his ears were and because what he was hearing, he's like, yeah, it's 10%. You don't believe me? And the guy's like, yeah, actually I did. And well, go ahead, right? The sale was blown. The sale was blown right then and there. And so in these canceled and expireds, oftentimes these agents are hearing, you're not good enough. Why are you the best? I don't want to work with you. You're like everybody else. They're hearing these things. So when they respond, they're responding, and then they're taking their script training, right? So they hear the wrong thing, and then they respond with the self-centered script, and it completely jacks up the call. And then they're like, these don't work. So once you've got the ability, which is very easily learned if you just focus on the way you deliver the words, of turning the cold call into a warm call, then we focus on the ears.
Okay.
Once you've got the ears, everything else starts to unfold because you start to hear things differently, which means then your experience comes out and you start to lay the pieces down in the right fashion that truly separates you from everybody else.
And kind of to wrap that up, because I'm sure the training that it takes for like being able to hear things properly, to truly build familiarity from the very beginning, it kind of leads to, do you go in with a goal in mind, or that you're going to follow up with them? Or what I see time and time again is a lot of agents having a ton of conversations, but there's not either a call to action at the end, or they don't know how to lead it to either a listing appointment or that next step. So it's like they try to either skip a step, or they try to they don't know how to lead it to the next step. What's your thoughts on that part of it?
Yeah, no, totally understand that. I mean, the goal is always to set the appointment, right?
Mm,
The way we can influence them, the way we can set up the process. I mean, when you think about it, right, the big goal is I want to sell the home, right? But you have
mhm,
to work backwards, because if you skip the process, if you skip the steps, then it'd be like building a house without a foundation, because
mm,
you want to get to the end quickly. Yeah, sure, the house might stand, but as soon as there's any type of movement or settling, that the whole thing will come crashing down. And that's why a lot of times agents either get to the appointment and they get the listing, but they never get the sale, or they ruin their reputation, or they never get in the door, is they don't focus on the first step, right? The first step is understanding the process of what's going on with the goal in mind, to provide them a solution to get in the door, to share that solution with them.
mm,
So the goal is to set the appointment, and you do so by understanding where the problem went, and the real problem, not the surface problem, like my house didn't sell for what I wanted. The real problem is, why didn't you have a really good expectation of how selling the house for market value would still let you get to your next home, right? Through data and whatnot. So you just reverse engineer it. You want to sell the home, and in order to sell the home, you got to have a phenomenal listing presentation where you set phenomenal expectations with price and process and communication. In order to do that, you need to know exactly what they want, so that you can highlight that in the call, so they'll meet with you. And in
mhm.
order to highlight what they want, so they'll meet with you, you need to separate yourself from the competition by being a friendly advisor, awesome agent, not somebody that's cold calling, focus on what you're going to say to them.
Awesome. Well, this is fantastic. I think there's a lot of pieces to break down here, and I really hope that we can, have another call like this in the future where we can dive in and maybe pinpoint some of the things with the hearing things differently, the ways of getting more familiar, because I think these can be used across all different lead sources.
Yeah.
I know, we can't go on for 2 hours just on this call, but I really appreciate
Yeah.
your time, Josh. And, anyone, if you have questions, please leave them down in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you on this. Josh will be going through these questions as well. So if you do have any questions or want any follow-up, please leave it down there, and that will help us, answer any questions, what future videos to create on the channel, and make sure to subscribe. So hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next call. Thanks again, Josh. This was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Thanks, Sean. I'll talk to you soon.